Welcome to Impartial Points and our explainer on the Equal Rights Amendment. Equality. It's a principle enshrined in American ideals, yet it has been a long and ongoing struggle to ensure equal rights for all citizens, regardless of gender. The Equal Rights Amendment, or ERA, is one of the most prominent efforts to guarantee gender equality in the U.S. Constitution. But what exactly is the ERA? What is its history, and why has its journey been so contentious? Which states have ratified it, and what's the deal with the time limit for ratification? In this video, we're diving deep into the Equal Rights Amendment to explore its origins, its significance, and why it remains one of the most debated constitutional amendments in American history. So, let's get started. Part 1. What is the Equal Rights Amendment? The Equal Rights Amendment, or ERA, is a proposed amendment to the U.S. Constitution designed to guarantee legal equality of the sexes. Its text reads, Section 1. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Section 2. The Congress shall have the power to enforce, by appropriate legislation, the provisions of this article. Section 3. This amendment shall take effect 2 years after the date of ratification. This simple yet powerful statement aims to enshrine gender equality in the Constitution, ensuring that laws cannot discriminate based on sex. While many believe equality is already protected under the Constitution, the ERA's proponents argue that explicit protections are necessary to address systemic discrimination and ensure lasting change. Part 2. The history of the Equal Rights Amendment. The origins of the ERA. The idea for the ERA dates back to 1923, when suffragist Alice Paul, a leader in the fight for women's voting rights, drafted and presented the amendment shortly after the passage of the 19th Amendment, which granted women the right to vote. Alice Paul and other activists believed that the 19th Amendment was only a partial victory and that additional constitutional protections were needed to address broader inequalities. The original ERA was introduced to Congress in 1923 but faced significant opposition. Critics argued that it would disrupt traditional gender roles. Resurgence in the 1970s. The ERA gained new momentum during the women's rights movement of the 1960s and 1970s, as activists pushed for gender equality in education, the workplace, and other areas of public life. In 1972, nearly 50 years after its initial introduction, Congress finally passed the Equal Rights Amendment with overwhelming bipartisan support. The amendment was then sent to the states for ratification. The ratification process. To become part of the Constitution, the ERA needed to be ratified by 38 states, which is 3/4 of the total states, and it had to happen within a 7-year deadline set by Congress. Initial momentum. The ERA saw rapid progress at first, with 22 states ratifying it in 1972 alone. Then, 8 more the following year. Opposition emerges. By the mid-1970s, a well-organized opposition movement argued that the ERA would eliminate protections for women, harm traditional family structures, and lead to unintended consequences, such as mandatory military service for women. As opposition grew, the momentum slowed. By the original 1979 deadline, only 35 states had ratified the ERA, which was 3 states short of the required 38. The extended deadline. In response to the stalled progress, Congress extended the ratification deadline to 1982. However, no additional states ratified the amendment during this period. By 1982, the ERA was considered defeated, but its supporters did not give up. Part 3. Recent developments. The fight for the ERA experienced a revival in the 21st century, as activists and legal scholars argued that the original ratification deadline was unconstitutional and that states could continue to ratify the amendment. Nevada, Illinois, and Virginia. In a surprising turn, 3 additional states ratified the ERA decades after the original deadline. Nevada ratified it in 2017. Illinois ratified it in 2018. Virginia became the 38th state to ratify the ERA in 2020, surpassing the 3/4 threshold. These ratifications sparked new debates about whether the ERA could still be added to the Constitution. Legal and procedural challenges. The main obstacles to finalizing the ERA include the ratification deadline. Critics argue that the 1979 and 1982 deadlines render the recent ratifications invalid. Proponents counter that Article 5 of the Constitution, which governs the amendment process, does not mention deadlines, making them legally questionable. Rescinded ratifications. A number of states that initially ratified the ERA later voted to rescind their ratifications or attempted sunset the ratification. Legal experts debate whether states have the authority to rescind a ratification. The debate over these issues is ongoing, with several lawsuits filed to determine the ERA's fate. Part 4. Why the ERA Matters. Explicit constitutional protections. While the 14th Amendment provides equal protection under the law, it does not explicitly address sex discrimination. The ERA would provide a clear and unambiguous constitutional guarantee of gender equality. Impact on laws and policies. The ERA could strengthen legal challenges to discriminatory practices in areas such as workplace equality and pay equity, protections against gender-based violence, access to health care and reproductive rights. Cultural significance. The ERA represents a broader cultural shift toward recognizing and addressing systemic gender inequalities. Its inclusion in the Constitution would send a powerful message about the nation's commitment to equality. Part 5. The future of the ERA. The Equal Rights Amendment remains in legal and political limbo, but its supporters continue to fight for its recognition. Legislative efforts. In recent years, Congress has introduced resolutions to remove the ratification deadline, arguing that deadlines should not prevent the amendment's adoption. Public support. Polling consistently shows that a majority of Americans support the ERA, reflecting widespread recognition of the need for gender equality. This public backing fuels ongoing advocacy efforts. Department of Justice opinion. In 2020 and then again in 2022, the United States Department of Justice Office of Legal Counsel found that the ratification deadline imposed by Congress is valid and that certifying the amendment would require new action by Congress or the courts to extend or remove the deadline. In summary, the Equal Rights Amendment represents more than just legal equality. It symbolizes the ongoing fight for fairness, dignity, and justice in America. Its journey, marked by both victories and setbacks, reminds us that the pursuit of equality requires persistence and resilience. As the debate over the ERA continues, it challenges us to reflect on our values and the kind of society we want to build for future generations. Thank you for joining us for this in-depth exploration of the Equal Rights Amendment. We hope you found this discussion informative and insightful. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world of information at your fingertips. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share with others. Join us next time on Impartial Points.